Well, let's kind of use Voodoo to kind of transition into some of our final thoughts about the 52 project overall. We've been reviewing a lot of these individual books over a whole month of podcasts here. What is your kind of take on 52 overall? Is it a success, not a success? Final thoughts.
Overall, I think the New 52 is a success. They've launched a lot of great books with a lot of talent behind them. They've managed to make a character like Wonder Woman, who has been kind of struggling to find a voice in the DC universe, really cool in her comic book. And one of the standouts, probably one of the best of the entire DC relaunch here. Mm-hmm. But I think they've managed to create a cool universe where superhumans are new and kind of scary to the populace. Very intriguing first issues for people. I think readers will want to know what is going to go on with the Justice League, how they come together. And I think they kind of matched books well with the creative teams. Putting Jeff Johns on Aquaman, I think, was a good idea. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Brian Azzarello on Wonder Woman was a great idea.
Yeah.
But even books kind of fan favorite books like Birds of Prey and stuff like that, they managed to inject some freshness into it. So I think overall it's been great.
Yeah, for the most part, generally speaking, I think all of that is true. Obviously, there were a lot of books we really didn't like.
But that's going to be...
amongst 52 titles. Yeah. But I think overall, we've given positive reviews to most of the things that we've looked at. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's...
there are some issues. There's not very many female creators.
Right.
The female... obviously, how they portray some females in the books have been...
The lack of... female creative teams and the unfortunate trend that kind of popped up in the last couple of weeks of these books of these objectified kind of sexist takes on a lot of the female characters has been a real unfortunate dark spot on the launch. And I think that's something that DC has and is going to continue to have to acknowledge and hopefully do some course correction on. You can make too much of that kind of thing. But I think there have been enough examples of it in a lot of these books that it's safe to say it's something that needs to be addressed and taken seriously. Mm-hmm. I think canceling Voodoo would be a great first step in that direction. No, but putting aside that, in general, the quality on these books have been high. It's inarguable at this point that it has been a huge financial and commercial success for DC. Mm-hmm. And I've liked a lot of these books. I will, at least for the foreseeable future, continue to buy many of them. Mm-hmm. So I have more DC books than I've read in a long time. So I there's no way I can sit here and say that it has been anything other than a successful, both critical and commercial launch. At least in the short term. The other side of that, though, is the long term. Where do you think the DC universe and all these new titles are going to be 6 months from now, a year from now? Do you think there's anything significantly different that they've done with these new number ones? Or do you think after all the hoopla of this September launch has passed, we're basically going to be just back to where we were when we started?
I don't know. I feel like it got a much-needed facelift, the DC universe, you know what I mean? And a lot of that, history that has been so convoluted over the years is just kind of swept away a little bit, you know what I mean?
A little bit, but, that's inconsistent. Some books, they started with a completely blank slate. Other books, they're picking up right where they left off, more or less. I guess that is my kind of criticism of it. Whereas, there's a lot of great new number one issues. There's a lot of great comics out there, and this was a great, way to get people reading them. Ultimately, there was no real artistic step forward. They improved some of the books and characters, but DC has not really altered their approach to comics making in any significant way. In many ways, it was almost a step back. You've got a lot of, the Image Comics artists like Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, Greg Capullo, drawing these books. So aesthetically, it almost felt like a throwback a little bit. I think the one thing that they've said is they're really going to make an effort to get these books out consistently on time without missing dates. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, in 6 months, a year from now, I don't know that when we look at the DC universe, we're really going to be able to tell that anything really significant happened with this relaunch, other than that the books will have lower issue numbers. There doesn't really have to seem to be an aesthetic change or shift forward at all. I don't get the sense that a lot of new people who weren't reading comics at all started reading these. I think probably people who are reading some DC and some Marvel are just reading more DC now. But how long will that last? I'm not sure. I don't think as a kind of corrective to the way that the direct market has been going, this is really going to do very much. So even though I liked a lot of the books on that aspect of it, I feel cynical.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Marvel has been the front runner for, the market share for a long time now, and DC's really been kind of struggling, I feel like.
Right.
So, I mean, this obviously brought a lot of attention to their books. The high quality in some of the books are going to have people, following them for a while. I think they could actually...
Well, yeah, and they got to maintain that quality.
Yeah, I mean, they do. But I do feel like they could be, a force, neck and neck with Marvel again, with this little boost that they
So you think like a year from now, DC might be number one in market share?
Well, I mean, it's number one obviously for the first month,
right?
But I feel like in the future, Marvel and DC could be neck to neck.
So this
as opposed to just Marvel always blowing them away.
All right.
You know what I mean?
We'll see. We'll see what happens. The other aspect of the relaunch that we haven't discussed at all is DC Comics' digital initiative, which the same time they launched all these books with a new number one, they also announced that they're going to be putting all of these books online, available digitally among various platforms, same day that they'll be available in comic book stores. That, I think, is the more significant legacy that's going to come out of the New 52. That is where I think DC is a leader right now.
Yeah.
I think that aspect of their publishing program is going to be what's going to be more interesting to look at a year from now. Is Marvel going to go that way? Probably. That seems a place where they're being a leader. Aesthetically on these books, it doesn't seem like there's really too much going on as far as looking forward. But the digital initiative, I think, is significant.
I think so too. And I think digital helps with these books sold out, but I mean, obviously a lot of them are still available in comic stores. Although a friend of mine did go to try to get Wonder Woman number one, and she couldn't get it, so she has to wait for the second printing of that.
Right.
So I mean, I think some books are genuinely selling out.
Right.
I know there's been some questions about how many are still on the shelves.
Right. That's always kind of a
But I mean, my friend, if she had this new Amazon Fire that's coming out, where they're going to have the comics available right on the device, I mean, she could just read it there.
Yep.
They don't have to have a certain amount of print run.
Yep.
So
yep.
The digital is a very important part of the industry.
Yeah, I think once the hype over these initial relaunches passes, digital is something we're going to be hearing a lot more about in the next year or couple of years. So that's that. Right. So we've done all we can do for you with the new DC 52. We reviewed a lot of these comic books.
It was fun.
It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. There's a lot more that we didn't review, so be sure to keep picking up the ones we've recommended and your own selections. There's a lot of great comics out there. So that, I guess, wraps it up for our month of DC New 52. Something completely different next time. Take at least a week off of DC and superheroes and have a bit of a breather from that. But we'll have a real great show for you guys. So thanks so much for watching this episode and the whole series. I hope you enjoyed it.
All right. Bye.
Bye now.